Thank you, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here. It's an enormous pleasure, a privilege, and honor to welcome Ken Langone back
Thank you for
to
having
Stern. Just judging by the size of the turnout and everything else, it's very clear that Ken needs no introduction. So I'm going to confine my opening remarks about Ken to just a few key highlights. As you know, he's the founder and CEO of Invermed Associates. He's also the co-founder of Home Depot, was a lead director and member of the executive committee of the company's board from its founding in 1978 until 2008. Ken received his bachelor's degree from Bucknell University and his MBA from the Stern School of Business. He earned his MBA in the part-time program at night while working full-time at that time as an analyst at Equitable Life Insurance, where he began his career. Today, as most of you know, the part-time program bears his name thanks to a generous gift that he made to us some years ago. Ken and his family are enormously philanthropic. They're given to many, many causes over the years. Ken is vice chair of the NYU Board of Trustees. He's chair of the NYU Medical Center Board of Trustees. He's also a member of the Stern Board of Overseers, and he's served on many corporate boards, including General Electric, YUM, the Promise Academy, and the Medal of Honor Foundation, amongst many, many others. As I've mentioned, before I get to the concluding part, so as I mentioned, Ken has been a very generous donor to NYU and Stern, amongst many other causes. Right after this event, we'll have a reception in a room that marks Ken's first gift to Stern, the Abbey Bogan room. We'll have a reception right after this event. I just wanted to mention that because classes in the Langone program begin at 6 p.m. sharp, we will be ending at 5:55 to give the students time to go to class. The rest of you will come to hopefully join us in Abbey Bogan for the reception. So Ken, I speak for literally everybody in the room and in the school when I tell you how delighted we are to welcome you back.
Thank you for having me.
And this
is this on? Yeah, I guess it's
yes.
okay.
So this is an event primarily to celebrate your career, but also the publication of your book, I Love Capitalism, An American Story. It should have read An American Love Story.
Well, my initial shot was Capitalism and Me, a Love Story.
Oh,
that's what I wanted it to be. But Random House was right. They had a different idea, and I think it sold more books by their title than mine.
They are the professionals in this.
Oh, yeah.
But let me begin with a question.
Sure.
Based on the opening chapter in the book. Mm-hmm. You were born on Long Island to first-generation Italian immigrant parents.
No, they weren't immigrants. They were first-generation Americans.
Oh, they were first-generation Italian. Yes.
My grandparents were the immigrants.
So you've spoken about the fact that you grew up without much material wealth, but very rich in other ways. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little more about how your upbringing and your early life contributed?
Very close family, very tight-knit, extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins. One of my favorite television shows is something called Blue Bloods on Friday night. And it is because they have a family gets together on Sunday for lunch. And that's what we did every Sunday for all the years I can remember growing up. And I think this is, I'm sure there are some Jews and Italians in the room. I'm sure you understand how that works. And but I tell people that I did not. We always had heat in the house, and thank God we had plenty of food, great food. And I go out to these restaurants and pay a fortune for a meal that I used to get for nothing. And and it tasted better then than it does now. But an awful lot of unconditional love. And I think, you know, when you think about being a parent, the thing you want to make sure is that you can be angry and you can be mad, but at the end of it all, you got to let your child know how much you love them, and you'll always be there for them. And that much I had. My father's favorite expression to me, because I was a bit mischievous, was, if I never see you again, it'll be too soon. And 5 minutes later, he's hugging me and kissing me, so I knew whatever it was, the never again came sooner than he thought, and here I am. But that was a very important part of my life, and it gave me great inspiration in later years to stick my neck out, because I knew, and I was blessed that not only I had it with my parents, but I ended up having it with this wonderful woman I married who was the same way. So I always knew there was a safe harbor for me. And I think that's very important. And it's more got to do with the mind than talent or ability or creativity. It's just an assurance that as bad as it might get, as I said, there's a safe harbor for you. So that was it. And it was a wonderful time to grow up. It was a time when it was okay to be patriotic. You know, and you mentioned about my immigrant grandparents. This pin I put on every morning, my American flag pin. I've done it for as long as I can remember. When I put it on, I look up in the ceiling and I thank my grandparents for coming to America. Because none of this would have happened to me. And that's why I insisted that the part of the title be an American story, because it could only happen in America. You know, you can knock us all you want, but we're the best, we're it. There'll never be another America again, as far as I'm concerned, ever again. And it's okay to be a patriot, and it's okay to feel good about being an American. I think so. I think over the years, I think back to World War II. You talk about kindness and charity. After we came through this horrible war with our enemies, what do? We went back to where they are and helped them rebuild their countries. The Marshall Plan, the Truman Doctrine. You go back and think of all the things we did as a group. We learned that as a result of the mistake that was made in World War I, when the French insisted that we strip Germany of its industrial might and power. And we did, and that led to incredible inflation in Germany, which led to a lot of pain and suffering, which people forget led to Hitler coming to power through a democratic process. We want to be very careful that we understand the importance of economics and society and jobs and job creation. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So that will, I think, perfectly segue into my next question.
You got me on my hot subject, okay?
No. I think, you know, I'm an immigrant myself, and I think a number of people in this room who are immigrants would agree with you that we could have done what we've done only in this country. I think it's been enormously welcoming and it's provided us with amazing opportunities. So I think I'm one of those who would completely endorse what you said. But perfect segue into the next question I was going to ask you. You're a co-founder of Home Depot, which is one of the largest retailers in the country, with sales of 100 billion, market cap of 200 billion, 400,000 employees. And you've said in your book that its successes, like Home Depot and your own other professional successes, that have given you faith in capitalism. So can you elaborate a little more on that? What would you say are the most positive traits of capitalism?
Well, capitalism, to me, is the great leveler. If you got a great idea and you're willing to work like hell, and you got a product that somebody wants to buy or a service that somebody needs, you're on your way. Now, you got to do it in an efficient way. You've got to do it in a way that adds value or gives value to the customer. And most importantly of all, you got to do it in a way that the people, catch this now, who work with you, not for you. They work with you. Nobody's ever worked for me. People work with me. They're my partners. And we at Home Depot, we don't call our employees, they're called associates. And we do something else. The very first day they're on the job, they're stockholders of the company. We want them to think like an owner. And why? Because if you own something, you tend to take care of it better than if you don't. It's that simple. This is simple. This is not even psychology. It would be so simple that it's just, how do you get people to sign on to the mission? How do you get people to buy into the idea? The greatest asset we have are the 400,000 people that put that apron on every day. I got a letter today from a man in Kentucky. I wish I'd have brought it. I would have read some of it. And he talked about going to our store and how a kid, his water bill was $73 a month. And the kid said, I can save you $30 a month if you're willing to spend $300. And he said, well, will I get the $30 every month? He said, yeah. He sold him one of these he was flushing 73 gallons of water a day in his old toilet. And his water bill went from 73 down to 43 a month. So if you multiply 30 times 12, the toilet was $350. He got the money back at the end of the first year, and he got a free ride from that point on. But that only happens if you have people who buy into the mission, if you have people who feel they're part of it. And that's very important. You've got to let people understand they matter. You've got to let them know that at the end of the day, the only thing that differentiates companies are the people. Example, Sam Walton had 4 5 and dime stores in Bentonville, Arkansas. And in 1970, Kresge, which is one of the big 5 and dime chains, opened a store in Michigan called Kmart. And Sam used to go up there and look at the store, and he made his mind up, that's where retailing is going. Walmart today is the largest sales corporation in the world. Kresge's bankrupt. Kmart's bankrupt. Why? The people. Very simple, the people, the leadership. If you really want people to buy into the mission, you have to let them understand that you're with them in that mission, and you're with them in the desire for them to succeed with you. And the thing I love to brag about, and this might bother all you people that are working like hell to get an MBA, especially those of you at night. We have 3,000 kids. By the way, anybody who's under 83 is a kid. I'm 83, so don't be offended if I call you a kid, because I think I'm the oldest guy in the room right now. We have 3,000 kids that started with us in the parking lot, pushing carts in, 18 years old. And fast forward, average probably 20, 25 years, they're multimillionaires today. Multimillionaires. The woman that runs the 1,700 United States Home Depot stores, we have stores in Guam, we have stores in Canada, Mexico, Puerto Rico, the gal that runs the 1,700 stores in America, Anna Marie Campbell, came from Jamaica. She started with us as a part-time cashier. She's now running 1,700 stores. That's what capitalism should be all about. Nothing more, nothing less. That not only shared success, but fair success. Success that allows everybody, notwithstanding. Mike Bloomberg today made a magnificent gift and he wrote a column. It's in today's Times. I read it. I urge you to read it. And he talked about the fact that the great leveler ought to be the passion and the ability and the talent of the people, not where they came from and not their birthright and not where their economic standing was when they started. And that's the genius of America to me. That's what makes us what we are.
So there are a number of words I could use to describe your book. Mm-hmm. It's incredibly candid, it's very honest, there are lots of things, but overall, I think there is this sense of optimism throughout the book when you look at the future at every point in your career. That optimism seems to be fading almost every day in America today, as increasing cries have come in for regulation, for increased supervision around healthcare and other things. Now, what do you think is motivating these trends? Have you seen similar trends in the past?
You know, you go through cycles. Mm-hmm. You know, Clinton was probably one of the greatest guys for president, for business. Okay? And then you get Obama, who frankly strangled us. The greatest thing that Trump has done is none of the stuff he's taking credit for, but the thing he doesn't talk about, which is deregulation. We had regulations in this country that had no useful purpose, protected nobody, and strangled business. Now, but let me back up. You mentioned optimism. I would love to be 21 years old right this minute. I think the opportunities in America today are better than they were when I was 21, 62 years ago. I think America owns the next 25 years. If you're going to be someplace in the world and you want to have a shot at a great future, be here. This is where it is. This is where it's going to happen. You know, I listen to everybody bitch and complain and moan and groan. Guess what? Where are people climbing over fences to get in, except in America? We must have something that we're doing right, or there must be something here that makes people want to do whatever they have to do to get in. So that's the best testimony. I know if you want to know you got a great business, when you open the doors in the morning, see how many people come through. If a lot come through, things are going pretty good. If you open the door and nobody's coming through, you got a problem. So optimistically, and I'm a perennial optimist at 83. I'm fully invested, by the way, all equities. I think we own America owns the next 25 years in the world. I just came back from Italy last week. I was there last week, and I'm glad I'm here. And I understand why my grandfather left there to come here. Okay, no hard feelings. I love going to Italy. The food's great, people are nice, and all that. But this is where you want to be, and don't forget that. And we've got a lot to protect and preserve, and we've got a lot more importantly to be thankful for. We're the greatest country that ever existed. I doubt if there'll ever be another one like it. Just don't sell us short. We're at our best when we have our backs to the wall. We prove that again and again and again.
So to questions about, for example, income inequality, the kind of concerns that keep coming up, what would be your response to those concerns?
Well,
I think real concerns?
Income inequality to me is one of the great problems we have confronting us as a society. We've got to address that. If there's one thing that, to me, frightens me about stability going forward, is income inequality. If you go back and look at what happened in countries like Venezuela and Cuba, Russia. When the gap gets so wide, and I don't mean this pejoratively, because I was of the little people, and when the little people feel there's no hope, that's when the despots plant their seeds, and they take. Go back and look at Germany in the 20s. Go back and look at Cuba in the 50s. Go back and look at Venezuela 20 years ago. We've got to do it, and I'm adamant, and thank God, Home Depot has never, in its entire history, ever hired one person for minimum wage. We typically pay $2 or $3 an hour more than minimum wage. And we review them. We love giving them promotions. We love giving them raises. Because when you give them raises, not only are you acknowledging what they've done, but you're understanding what they've done for you to help you be successful. And I'll give you an interesting statistic. As of August 8th this year, I haven't done it since then, the number one performing stock in the Standard & Poor's 500 was not Microsoft, was not Apple, was not Facebook, was not Netflix, was not Cisco. Number one performing stock was Home Depot. It compounded at 27% a year for 40 years with dividends. Go do the math. Apple went public in December of 1980. We went public in September of 1981. Apple, from then until August 8th, you made 42,000% on your money if you invested in Apple. If you invested in Home Depot, you made 621,000%. So it hadn't got to be technology all the time, fellas and ladies, all right? The point is, when you motivate people and when you get people on the same mission, when you get people with the same vision and the same dreams and the same desires, it's wondrous what can happen. And it will happen. But they need to know they're going to be thought of as people, as persons, not as units of production. But if we don't address income inequality, and I think we will, I think, for example, Amazon now raising pay to $15 an hour. I have no problem with that. The thing we want to be careful of, that we don't make it so costly that guys like McDonald's try to figure a way out to run a restaurant without people. Because that'll really be counterproductive. And by the way, McDonald's has got a wonderful tagline now. America's best first job. Apple doesn't expect you to be there with them forever. But a 16, 17-year-old kid, it's not a bad pay. It isn't as much as they could, or they can, but because think of the product. You know, ultimately the consumer pays the cost because you build your pricing based on your cost, and you go from there. So we need to address income inequality, and we will, and I think we need to be more forthcoming and enlightened about how we treat our people. We had a plant, one of my companies, we have a textile plant in El Salvador. I don't know what the hell got in my head. We were having a board meeting, and I asked them, what do we pay the people in El Salvador? And they paid them $80 a week. And I said, how the hell can anybody live on $80 a week, even in El Salvador? Well, we're having any trouble hiring people. And it just bothered me. And I said, I'm sorry. I said to the management, this is normally your work. I think we ought to give these people a bump. And the two complaints that management threw at me was, our competitors won't like it, and our other companies that are down here won't like it. Well, who gives a damn? I mean, frankly, and this combobulate the whole economy. I said, wait a minute, that's not valid. These people need to live. I said, so the board, God bless the board said to the management, you decide, but we recommend you raise their pay by 30%. So from $80 to 112. It was on a Wednesday, the president flew down and he made the announcement on Monday. The crying and the cheering of those 900 people in that factory, you couldn't believe. And by the way, we had lines of people that were going to leave other plants to come work for us because they wanted to get a job with us. So it works. Capitalism works, even by the hour. And you got to think big. Right?
So I'm going to go back to the optimism question in your personal life now. That you talk in your book about a few episodes that were not the highest points of your career. 1970, when the firm almost went bankrupt, you talk about, or early 2000s, when you acknowledge that Home Depot had a leader who didn't understand the culture, although the numbers were there and so on. If you had to look back on your career and talk about the greatest challenge you faced, or the greatest mistake that you learned from, what would be the obstacle you would, or challenge you would?
This is interesting because you got a lot of students in here that want to go out and kick the world in the butt. I would urge people to learn business. And I'm sorry, I don't think you do it in the financial services industry. You're observers, you're watchers. Go out and get a job. I'm nuts about wanting to know how things work, so I'll go into an industrial plant and I'll just literally, if somebody's digging a hole up on Madison Avenue, I can stand there for an hour and watch the guy operate the crane. You need a curiosity. And so what I would say is what I did learn, I think I would have had a much quicker progression had I knew business better from the inside out. And I urge everybody, Wall Street's where you used to make a lot of money. There's not that many jobs out there anymore, and everything is now becoming automated. There's no more. Go down to the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. We used to have thousands of people there. Christ, you can throw a bowling ball down the floor and you won't hit anybody now. So, I mean, to me, what I learned was that I became a better investor when I understood business better. Your dad's a good example, by the way, what he did with the bird business and also the real estate business. It's absolute, and I urge you, make less money. By the way, I tell every kid, if what makes you take a job is how much money you're being paid, shame on you. You better love what you're doing. I can tell you right now, the one thing I did know, from the time I started in June 3rd, 1957, I worked for an insurance company in the investment department. From the time I started, I couldn't wait to go to work every day, and that's still the case today. I just can't wait. If I could figure a way out to go without sleep, I'd work 24 hours a day. I mean it. I love my work. I love what I'm doing. I'm curious. I love reading annual reports. I love talking to managements. I love learning about how things are done, how things are made different, how things can be made better. I mean, but there can't be a worse hell on earth than to wake up every morning and say, oh, shit, I got to go to that job again. Think about it. Before you start, you beat. But I can honest to God say that even in the bad periods, I couldn't wait to go to work. And I can tell you that's still the same emotion and the same feeling I have right this minute. I love my work. I love what I'm doing. I'm having the time of my life. It came with some money. I hadn't planned on anything like this, but it came with some money. And but I think typically the correlation is the more you like what you're doing, the better you'll do. The better you do, and the more likely you are to make more money. Simple equation.
So in about 5 minutes, we'll take questions from the audience.
Okay.
There will be people with handle mics going around. So before we get to that, NYU, the Langone Medical Center, made news, spectacular news for those of us at NYU when it announced that it was going to go tuition-free. And you were a prime leader in that movement. So can you talk to us a little bit about what motivated you to go in that particular direction and what that means to you?
Well, I took that job. By the way, let me digress for a moment. I was thinking about coming here tonight. I'll tell you a very interesting coincidence. And think about this. Thanksgiving 1957. It was my first semester down here as a student. And what I used to do, the old building they had,
Trinity Place.
and Trinity Place, not what the hell was the name of that hall? No, it was an old building. It was 4 stories, no elevators. You had to walk up and down. You sweated your butt off in the summertime and you froze to death in the wintertime. And anyway, there was a Horn and Hardin on the corner. And I used to go get a roll and a cup of coffee at 5 o'clock to carry me through until I got out to Flushing, where Elaine and I lived, and have dinner late at night. Anyway, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, that'll mean tomorrow night, I had $3 in my pocket. And I'm walking out of the old building. And there's somebody there panhandling. I suppose if I had a quarter, I'd have given them a quarter, but since I only had 3 singles, I don't know what the hell made me do it. I gave him $1. I never felt better about myself, and I still remember the surge of how good I felt about myself. And that's when I really learned about philanthropy and the meaning of philanthropy. I've gotten, Elaine and I shouldn't say me, Elaine and I have gotten more than we've given by giving. Think about that. One of the things it gives you is a sense of self-worth. That just maybe, doing something and getting nothing back for it might be a very important part of you, the person, and how you think of yourself and how you have self-confidence. So let me go back to the medical school. One of the great joys of my life. I took this job out of a sense of obligation. Marty Lipton was chairman of the university, and the place was a mess. And now I'm bragging. Last year, when the rankings came out, in 2007, we were 37th out of 100 medical schools in America. Last year, the ratings came out in August. We're 3rd. Harvard's 1, Hopkins is 2, and we're 3rd. And all I would tell Hopkins and Harvard is to don't look back. Just run as hard as you can. And why do we do it? Why free tuition? Everybody's talking about affordability of healthcare. That's a problem. The bigger problem is going to be availability of healthcare. We're going to be short 50,000 primary care physicians in the year 2030. Now, I can think back to 2006, one like that. The next 12 years, we're going to go even faster. So we're going to be out of primary care physicians, 50,000, 30,000 pediatricians, and 30,000 OBGYN. We're going to be short that number of doctors in those specialties. We better think what we're going to do about it. My hope is that other medical schools will join us, not follow us, because you've got to be mindful of egos. They'll join us in this effort, because we can't move the needle alone. Now, I will tell you something that's a high-class problem. But before I give you this number, let me give you something. We didn't do it to elevate our standards. Our class last year, the average GPA out of college was 3.97. And the MCATs, they were in the 99th percentile. So you know, we had no shortage of smart, hard-working people. We had 6,000 applicants for 90 positions. We're not even done yet. We have 9,000 this year for 90 positions. And we're opening up a new medical school out in Long Island. It's going to be a 3-year medical school, and it's going to be all primary care physicians. And by the way, the 4th year of medical school is generally accepted as being going around for visits or where you're going to do your residency, and not much of contribution to your education. So we have at the medical school here, we have 3-year programs. But if you want that program here, you have to pick your specialty when you start medical school. Most kids don't decide what they want to do as a specialty until after they're in the 2nd or 3rd year of medical school. So you got to make the determination now. But I will tell you, each of you this. Grab onto something like we did there and take it for a ride. And you have no idea the joy and satisfaction that comes from doing that instead of making a few more bucks. You know, I can't tell you how much that place means to Elaine and me. Knowing what we're doing and knowing the lives that we're changing and the people that we're helping. And I keep saying to people, the more you feel good about yourself, the more apt you are to be able to succeed at what you're trying to do. It's called self-confidence. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
So let's open it up to the audience. Anybody with Lily at the back?
One right there.
Okay.
Ken, first I want to say thank you very much for writing the book. It was a spectacular book.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed reading it. There was a really beautiful moment in the book when Frank Blake first became CEO and reached out to Bernie Marcus.
Right.
It was a wonderful gesture. But, as you pointed out, Bernie hated him.
No, I didn't say he hated him.
Or mistrusted him.
He was cool towards him.
Cool towards him. How did he win his friendship and full trust? You didn't really make that clear in the book.
Performance. What happened was Blake was brought in by Nardelli. So when we fired Nardelli, we gave Blake the job. Now, let me tell you about Frank Blake. Catch this. Harvard undergraduate, Columbia Law School, clerk to Justice Stevens of the Supreme Court, no retail yet, head of strategy for General Electric, number 2 guy in the Department of Energy, and then head of strategy for Home Depot. Didn't know a hammer from a saw. Okay? And Bernie had developed a very strong dislike for anything GE because of Nardelli. We had, and thank God we still have, this very unique culture at Home Depot. We like our people to tell us they're happy. We like them to tell us they can't wait to come to work tomorrow. And so here's an insight to Frank. But I called Frank in. I said, Frank, you're the new CEO. By the way, every once in a while you've got to stand your ground. My colleagues on the board wanted me to make him an acting CEO. And I said, well, I got a better idea. Why don't we cut his legs off and make him CEO? He'll have a better chance of succeeding. If we're gonna, I said, look, we just proved we can fire a guy. Look, if this guy doesn't work, we'll fire him. So Frank got the job unencumbered. And I said, well, Frank, is there anything I can do for you? When I called him into the room and the other directors all left and I left, I was behind to sign the severance and contracts with Nardelli, he said, I'd love to talk to Bernie. So I had my cell phone, and I called Bernie, and I said, Bernie, somebody wants to talk to you. And Frank said, Bernie, I just was elected CEO of Home Depot. I told Bernie the day before what was going to happen, and Bernie assured me, because Bernie was off the board. And he said, I'm going to need your help, and I'd like to come see you as soon as I can. And Bernie was standoffish. And I forced the issue, and I said, we'll meet you for breakfast Sunday in Palm Beach. So Frank flew down Sunday morning, and he and Bernie and I had breakfast 4 days later. And Bernie was very standoffish. Now, let me tell you how far Frank has come. Frank is now on Bernie's foundation board. Any major decisions that Bernie makes regarding the foundation or anything else, he's always got Frank on the phone. Frank's now retired. I haven't got to tell you the job Frank did. I believe Frank is really equivalent of one of the founders of the company. Frank restored a culture that was badly bruised. And let me tell you the tragedy in Nardelli, and this you ought to learn about in business schools. The first 4 years he was there, everything he touched, he made better. He compounded earnings at 20% a year. The guy was good. The problem was when he got done getting all the low-hanging fruit, he had like a chainsaw. Chainsaw Al, remember that? Mm-hmm. He was like a chainsaw. Where can I cut? Where can I cut? And he was indiscriminate. And he lost his way, and he lost the culture. He lost the following of the people. And when I come back, when I say to you earlier, people work with me, not for me. The minute people feel they aren't with you, then you've got to understand you've lost something. People need to know that they matter, they make a difference. And this is what Frank Blake was special at. Very, very special. And he's I don't say he's a quirky guy. I will tell you this right now, and I've known them all. I've known Welch, I've known Dave Novak, Larry Bossidy, Bernie Marcus, Alan Mevin. I'll give you the names of all the great CEOs I know. None of them are better than Frank Blake. None of them. He has this great, unique sense of humility that puts you at ease. And the more somebody's at ease, the more they're apt to be open with you or more expressive or explain to you what's on their mind. And the more you learn about what's in people's heads, the more you learn yourself about everything. Next question. I answer your question? Sometimes I'm a little verbose, but you gotta, at 83, yes, sir.
I get asked this question about you, I don't know the answer, so.
Go ahead.
How did you make the transition from being an analyst or being an investment banker to being a true capitalist and a business owner? How did that come about? And maybe that'll help some of the other folks here make that
Well,
transition.
the first thing was, truthfully, when I looked at prospectuses, on the front page you saw how much the bankers made. And when you went to page 4 and saw who owned the stock, I said, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong page. You want to get rich, own something. Okay? I wanted to own something, but I also was not satisfied being just looking at numbers on a sheet of paper. I wanted to know how the numbers happened. I wanted to know, for example, Home Depot started, very interesting. Every director of Home Depot since 1983 has had to visit 3 Home Depot stores every 90 days. Now with a suit on, you walk in unannounced, walk around, talk to customers, talk to associates, then you go up and talk to the store manager, tell them who you are. You say, where's the break room, send me a dozen kids. You get them in a room and say, what's on your mind? And you can't believe what you learn. In 1983, I went to a board meeting. It was the original board then. We were only 5 years old. Fred DeMattis, Mitch Hart, myself, Barry Cox, Bernie, Arthur. And I started talking about stuff in the store. And Bernie's looking at me, where the hell you learned that from? I said, in the stores. What are you talking about? I said, yeah, I go to the stores. And and hey guys, we all ought to do that. And that's what happened. And the most important part of the meetings was the discussion the directors had about what they saw in the stores, what they heard in the stores, and what they saw that was wrong in the stores. And so, but I still love, one of my significant investments is a company called Parker Hannifin. Don't ask me why, but if you look at all your construction machinery today, it used to be run by cables. I was a laborer, so I was always curious about bulldozers and cranes and stuff. They don't use cables anymore. They use hydraulics. And Parker Hannifin has such high pressure in their products that they make their own hoses. I don't know what the hell got in my head. I said, can I go see how they make the hoses? And I spent a whole day in Cleveland watching them make the hoses from nothing until it was a finished product. I thought it was interesting. Now, a lot of people look at it and say, well, this is like watching the grass grow. What the hell are you doing? But I can't explain it other than to say is I had this great curiosity. Yes, sir.
Yeah, can I ask you a question about
Sure.
You've been very successful in the private sector. You ever thought about taking any of your ideas and implementing them in the public sector?
You mean politics?
Wow. Any government?
No way. No. I'd be the worst failure in the public sector. First of all, I'd be a dictator, okay? Secondly, I'd be terribly frustrated. Okay? I just before I left my office, I had Bill Daley, he's running for mayor, and I had him on the phone really working him over that he's going to run because Chicago needs help bad. We need it bad, but they need it bad. And I pitched him on the notion that he could make a difference, but it doesn't fit with my chemistry. You know, if I know something's right, you don't compromise on what's right. It's right or it's wrong. So no, I'd be the worst guy in the public sector. Horrible, horrible. I'd be a miserable failure. Okay.
You talked about Ross Perot pushing you for Treasury Secretary.
Perot, and when he ran for president in '62, somebody, Dan Dorfman was a columnist for the Wall Street Journal, and he wrote a piece. And Perot said, well, Dorfman said, would you ever have Ken? Ross wanted me to be a CFO when I took him public in '68, and I didn't want that. And Dan asked Perot, and Perot said, well, he'd be a great Secretary of the Treasury. No, I wouldn't. I'd be the worst in the world. Yes, sir.
How do you think capitalism can fix or help climate change?
We need to be scientific, okay? We need to be scientific. I grant you there's a lot of subjectivity in it. But I don't know of anybody worth their salt that's going to do anything to hurt the economy, to hurt the environment. We go through great pains at Home Depot to take poisonous chemicals and make sure we dispose of them in a way where they're guaranteed not to impair the environment. So it's first of all an abiding belief that we got to protect the environment. We have to. It's all we have. And the thing and we're animal lovers. We have 4 dogs. And my son's got 2. My son-in-law. So tomorrow for Thanksgiving we'll have 6 dogs instead of 4. But we love animals and we love the environment and we love nature. But we're going to have to take it out of the political realm and put it more in the scientific, objective role. And I'm not suggesting one side or the other. I mean, to me, it's a big stretch to say that these fires in California happened because there's no rain, and you got no rain because the environment changed. You know, we used to have dinosaurs too, and when dinosaurs were extinct, I don't think there was anybody around screwing around with the environment, except God. I think we had the Big Bang. Is that what got him? I mean, so we must address it seriously and sincerely, okay, because it's all we have.
So the lady at the back, she's been holding up her hand from the beginning. Right at the back. She's standing right at the back.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think we're...
Sorry.
Let's give some attention to the back of the room.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Langone, thanks for a great evening. My name is Chris. I'm a student, MBA, weekend student, EMBA.
Okay, you're executive.
Yes.
Executive MBA.
Yes.
By the way, when I went here, the only thing was the night school. There was no day program. There was no weekend program. It was strictly nights.
Physician, so I had to do the weekend program.
Okay.
Long hours.
You're a physician?
15 years now, yeah.
You want to be a businessman, I guess.
I don't know if I can answer that question.
Okay.
But it's politically correct on my side. You mentioned a lot about motivation and inspiration in the workplace. I've been managing practices now for 9 years. I don't see too much of that anymore. We're taking away a lot of ambition from the physicians, the employee level. I do see a lot of care for the patients. I do see physicians advocating for patients a lot, but I find it to be a very restrictive environment for physicians. Where do you see us in the next 2, 5, 10 years down the road? Thank you.
Well, you're saying you don't see the motivation. Let me tell you what happened just this morning. I had an endoscopy this morning at the medical center. And one of the things I like to ask people, are you happy? I can't tell you the passion. And don't believe me, go up to the medical center and talk to the nurses, talk to the guards. It's all about leadership. If there's a lack of leadership, don't expect good things to happen. And one of the things, this is a little quirk, one of the things I like to do, I think it's artificial to call me mister. It's a barrier. So all the nurses are coming over, Mr. Langone, is the blanket warm enough? Mr. Langone, do you want the pill? I'm obviously getting special treatment because my name is on the place. I said, look, call me Ken. Call me Ken. All of us that have leadership roles in life need to figure ways out to break down the artificial barriers and let people know we're all in it together. But I will take you up there. I can tell you right now, the morale of that place today compared to what it was 19 years ago is night and day. Why and how? You're a doctor. Call your friends that might have a connection with NYU and ask them what it's like. I'll give you the name of a man. We took over a big cardiology practice. George Tenet. His brother was Bill Tenet. His brother was George Tenet. He was the head of the CIA. Bill Tenet will tell you he's now part of us. He can't believe it. Everybody's happy and everybody's trying to help everybody do a better job and be more successful and be more efficient. But pardon me, you can't bullshit. You got to be the real deal. You got to mean it. If you don't mean it, they'll find out you're a faker, and that's worse. Don't do it at all. Answer your question? Okay.
Okay, one last question, please, and then we have class.
Yeah, I know, and I said I'd go by to the reception for half an hour. Yes, sir. I know. You were here teaching when I was a student. I just figured it out. I'm not the oldest guy in the room.
That's right. Anyway, I remember when you first joined the board, and we had that little robing ceremony on the 12th floor.
Right.
And Ross Perot came down.
Right.
And I just always wondered why he attached such special importance to fly in, stay there for an hour, watch you robe, and fly back. What was the special relationship?
He was my friend. You know, he knew what was happening. That was Ross Perot. Why would he go all around the world to try and get the prisoners out of Vietnam? Out of one of the dirtiest, worst wars we were ever in our lives. The most horrible mistake we made. No, I guess Iraq ranks up there too. Okay? Horrible mistakes. That's the kind of guy. That's why Perot ran a successful company. His guys would run through that wall for him. A lot of what I saw that we needed, we founded Home Depot in '78. I took Ross public in '68. A lot of what I learned about motivation, I learned from watching Ross. He was a great motivator of people. He got people to do things, and that's the other thing about a leader. A great leader gets people to do things they didn't think they could do. That's a great leader. Anyway, thanks for having me, and